US-Israel war on Iran has now entered its 21st day, with new air strikes, expanding regional attacks and a growing global energy crisis. Overnight, explosions were heard across Tehran as Israeli strikes hit multiple locations in and around the capital. According to Iran's fast news agency, air strikes targeted Shari Ray south of Tehran, Karaj to the west, and the central city of Isfahan. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The strikes also appear to have killed another senior Iranian official. Iran's Revolutionary Guard confirmed that Ali Mohammed Naini, the spokesperson of the IRGC, was killed in overnight attacks carried out by the United States and Israel. Just hours earlier, Naini had appeared on television insisting Iran's missile industry remained fully operational even during wartime. Israel also says it killed Ismail Omodi, a senior intelligence official in the IRGC's Basij paramilitary unit, during an earlier strike on a Basij command center in Tehran. Iranian authorities have not confirmed that claim. Israeli forces say they are continuing strikes across eastern Tehran, even as Iran marks Nowruz, the Persian New Year, which this year coincides with Eid al-Fitr. In a Nowruz message, Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei said Iran's enemies were being defeated and praised national unity despite the war. He denied that Iran or its allies were responsible for attacks in Turkey and Oman, calling them false flag incidents meant to create regional divisions. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian also delivered a New Year message, insisting that Iran does not seek nuclear weapons and calling for a regional security system among Islamic countries without outside powers. Even as the war intensifies, everyday life continues under heavy strain.
که هر دو با ما روابط مناسبی دارند علیه بعضی از نقاط این کشورها صورت گرفته به هیچ وجه از سوی نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی و سایر نیروهای جبهه مقاومت نبوده است. این حیله است که دشمن صهیونی با استفاده از ترفند پرچم دروغین برای ایجاد تفرقه بین جمهوری اسلامی و همسایگانش صورت می‌دهد و ممکن است در بعضی کشورهای دیگر هم اتفاق بیفتد.
ما قصد نداریم با کشورهای مسلمان اختلاف کنیم. ما به دنبال درگیری و جنگ با کشورهای اسلامی نیستیم. اونا برادران ما هستن. این اختلافی که به وجود اومده دشمن غداری است که با این روش و با این رفتارش داره تو جامعه ما بین ما مسلمان ها رو با مشکل مواجه میکنه.
People in Tehran are still marking Nowruz, shopping in markets and visiting relatives despite ongoing air strikes. Authorities say fuel supplies remain stable, though queues continue at petrol stations. At the same time, the government has imposed a near-total internet shutdown affecting more than 90 million people, limiting access to global communications. At the same time, the conflict is widening across the region. Israeli attacks in Lebanon killed at least 20 more people and wounded 57, bringing the total number killed there to 1,021 since Israel escalated its campaign on March 2nd. Israel also expanded its military operations to Syria, saying it struck infrastructure in response to attacks on the Druze community in Suwayda province. Iran, meanwhile, continues retaliatory attacks. Sirens sounded across central Israel, including Tel Aviv, after a second Iranian missile barrage within an hour. Another impact occurred near the Zion Gate in Jerusalem, close to the Old City and holy sites including Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Western Wall and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Elsewhere, Iran's missile and drone campaign has targeted energy infrastructure across the Gulf. Drones struck Kuwait's Mina al-Omadi refinery for the second day, forcing several units at the 730,000 barrel per day facility to shut down. Iranian forces also claimed attacks on US forces at the Al Dhafra airbase in the UAE, while Bahrain reported a warehouse fire caused by falling debris and Saudi Arabia said it intercepted more than a dozen drones. Iran's broader retaliation began after Israel struck Iran's South Pars gas field, the country's largest natural gas field. The strike triggered attacks across the region, including damage to Qatar's Ras Laffan LNG complex, the world's largest liquefied natural gas facility. The damage has wiped out about 17% of Qatar's LNG export capacity, costing an estimated $20 billion in annual revenue, and repairs could take 3 to 5 years. Iraq has also declared force majeure on oil fields operated by foreign companies, after military activity around the strait halted most of the country's crude exports. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, the critical waterway through which around 20% of the world's oil and LNG passes. The disruption has already pushed oil prices higher, with Brent crude settling at $112 per barrel and US crude near $98 per barrel, the highest levels in nearly 4 years. The economic effects are spreading. Governments in parts of Asia are already rationing electricity and cutting office hours as fuel shortages ripple through supply chains. The United States is also taking emergency economic steps. The US Treasury has temporarily lifted sanctions on Iranian oil for 30 days in an attempt to stabilize global fuel prices as markets surge due to the war. The war is now drawing in more international players. Britain has authorized the United States to use UK bases to conduct defensive strikes against Iranian missile sites targeting ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister warned that the decision could put British lives at risk. Meanwhile, NATO has withdrawn all personnel from its mission in Iraq as Iran-aligned groups continue attacking US sites in the country. Despite the escalation, Washington is signaling that it may eventually wind down the campaign. US President Donald Trump rejected calls for a ceasefire, saying negotiations are not possible when you're obliterating the other side. But he also said the United States is very close to achieving its military objectives and is considering winding down military action. Trump also suggested that countries that depend on the Strait of Hormuz, including China and Japan, should take responsibility for policing the waterway rather than the United States. The war continues to take a heavy human toll. More than 1,300 people have been killed in Iran since the US and Israel began bombing the country began. Israeli strikes in Lebanon have killed over 1,000 people, while 15 people have been killed in Israel by Iranian missile attacks. At least 13 US military personnel have also died during the conflict. With attacks spreading across multiple countries, global oil supplies disrupted and military operations intensifying, the war is now shaping both the regional balance of power and the global economy.